Stantler's long-awaited evolution, 25 years in the making, gave us, Wyrdeer. And look, this thing is very not good, to put it nicely. But today, I'm gonna make it a beast anyway, and here's the plan. The bearded boy now becomes normal psychic type, which isn't horrible. But for stats, it gets some good HP, and base 105 in both special attack and attack for some reason. But its bulk is nothing to write home about, and it's really slow. It does still get the Intimidate ability, which is super nice. And I'm going to try to switch into some setup on the opposing side. This will hopefully activate our Mirror Herb to copy their stat boost, and then we can pull out Agility. I've given it 172 speed EVs, which after an Agility allows us to be 1 point faster than a max speed Dragapult, which is sweet because we can throw the extras in HP for more bulk. After hopefully stealing some stat boosts and clicking as many Agilities as we possibly can, it's time to bust out Stab Stored Power. This is a 20 base power move that gets plus 20 for each stat boost, and should hopefully be able to melt some things with a little help. We've also got Thunderbolt for coverage, along with Terra Ground boosted Earth powers for steel types. And it's kind of great because nobody knows what the hell this thing's gonna do. So finally it's time. Let's make Wyrdeer a monster, or at least try. Look, for a guy that's like the freaking motorcycle of Legends Arceus, it's annoying to me that they made Wyrdeer slow, and nobody ever uses this thing and ever gets any love. But I like Wyrdeer, he's a fun guy, and today we're gonna try to show some love to it. So if you're into weird Pokemon with weird strategies, you should consider hitting that subscribe button. It's free, it only takes you a second, you probably won't regret it. And with that, let's go ahead and get into the match. Alright, so my opponent decides to lead off with none other than the Grimmsnarl. And this buff prankster bastard is always harshing the vibes around here. It's going to be able to get priority screens and then go for parting shots and just do annoying Grimmsnarl stuff. So, as I have a Rotom-Mow who's here to potentially get a fast pivot with a Volt Switch, I also have the option to go ahead and click the trick. And it feels good to do against a Grimmsnarl, because a Grimmsnarl has no business having a choice item, and now it's going to be locked into whatever it clicks next. Since I gave it the Scarf after it went for a screen, it can now click Reflect, which is fine. So they do get up, dual screens. The light screen's gonna stick around for the 8 turns since I took its lump of light clay, but the reflect is only gonna be 5. And honestly, that's kind of the best start you can have against a Grimmsnarl. So we take its light clay, I can now Volt Switch out of here and figure out a little bit of a matchup. So knowing that this thing is just obviously locked into reflect, I'm pretty free to just go right into the Garchomp. Reason for that is I can get up my Stealth Rock essentially for free and see what they want to do here. So trying to play it a little bit safe here, get my Stealth Rock up early, and kind of figure out what my win condition might be here. So, as they end up bringing in Scizor, that's actually really great for me to see. I have Fire Blast on this thing for coverage against things like Corviknight, but hey, it works against, a Scizor too, and as I do click the Fire Blast, I am faster, I connect, but it does less than half, because, yeah, they have a light screen up, and I'm basically, that's essentially just there to try to get just extra damage on steel types, but doesn't do much behind the light screen. And as they set up a Swords Dance, this is not the kind of thing I'm really worried about. I'm Rocky Helmet with Rough Skin. They're gonna have to make physical contact. And also, they decide to commit to Terra. They're gonna go Terra Water, turn this Scizor into a damn fountain, which of course is gonna make this next Fire Blast not do a damn thing. But as they click Bullet Punch, I am pretty defensive, able to barely hang on at least, but they have to touch the Rough Skin, they have to touch the Rocky Helmet. And as I connect with the Fire Blast, I'm like, yo, a burn would be just the icing on the cake. I do not get the burn, however, because God is evil, but it is what it is. I'm still happy with that because, again, they have to touch me. They're going to knock themselves out to the helmet recoil, and it's all you can ask for. So, realizing they probably don't want to just waste the Scizor, they instead now switch into the Polteageist. That is a little tiny teapot over there. I click Earthquake as just good coverage to take out the Scizor or cover for any switches. It doesn't do much behind the reflect, but here's the thing. I'm thinking surely this is the kind of guy that is gonna go for a Shell Smash. That's just what this damn thing does. And I decide to switch into Wyrdeer to be able to Mirror Herb that, and it's gonna be so incredibly satisfying. So I bring in Wyrdeer. Intimidate is actually gonna proc the White Herb to get rid of that stat drop, which is kind of great, but they click Strength Sap instead. And that is wildly unfortunate. I was like, what kind of teapot does not click Shell Smash there? If I could have Mirror Herbed a Shell Smash, Wyrdeer would have this one in the game. This game in the bag. The game was going to be somewhere, probably in a bag. So now without the help of a Mirror Herb boost, I decided, you know what, that is a really good matchup against the Ghost type anyway. It cannot touch me, obviously, being part normal, which does help us with our psychic weaknesses, but I go for an agility, which is great because now doubling my speed, I'm faster than everything. But as they now bring in the Scizor, it's not really worth it for me to take unnecessary bullet punch damage, especially when I just have the Garchomp in the back. So I'm going to bide my time a little bit. I'm still feeling like there's potential for Wyrdeer to come in clutch here. But knowing that Garchomp doesn't have a whole lot of value left, I decided to bring this thing in to literally bite the bullet, take a bullet punch and die. But the Rocky Helmet and stuff is just going to do its job. So down goes the Scizor that also is going to take their Terra with it. And we're trying to at least get a position here where I can find something that is going to come in clutch. So we now have the unique empty battlefield situation where I'm like, you know who likes these? I don't know, Pancake. I'm going to go right into the Greedent because this is just kind of a thick, fat boy that you can just bring out in situations and just see what they're going to do. But they end up bringing in the Hisuian Samurott. So this is great. Knowing that, you know, a physical attacker's on the other side, this gives me a great opportunity to try to set up some curses. If you have not seen the Greedent video, definitely check it out. This thing is incredibly fun. But they go for a Ceaseless Edge, does get some spikes all over the place, and I am just a happy squirrel yelling curses out here. So cursing like a sailor, get myself to +1 attack and defense is amazing because now their next Ceaseless Edge, or if they're not Scarfed or something like that, they could go for a Sacred Sword. It's going to just get me down into Citrus range and then Cheek Pouch, and then Greedent gets out of hand if you run out of special options. So, as I end up going for the Body Press here just to get some damage, they bring back in the Grimmsnarl, which is great because this is kind of a sack switch option for them, where knowing that they can just set up another Reflect and then have to pivot back out, they don't do that. They end up going for a Parting Shot, which is not horrible. I mean, the Prankster Parting Shot comes through, drops my attack, which is the only thing that really matters. But considering I clicked Curse this turn, knowing that it was just a choice Grimmsnarl, is a fantastic opportunity to just set this damn squirrel up some more. So, as they now end up pivoting into the Pelipper, important to note, Pelipper, I'm trying to figure out this thing's role on the team. It sets up rain, but it doesn't boost any Swift Swimmers. It potentially enables things like the Samurott, maybe be here to allow Raging Bolt in the back to hit Thunders. But regardless, I get myself another Curse, and then I'm like, well, I am going to be hit on the special side with a Hurricane, and that's going to hurt. But they click Roost, which is confused. I don't know. They click Roost, but I go for a knockoff, which is great because that gets rid of a Damp Rock, which now the rain, if they bring this thing back in, won't stick around. Again, not that big of a deal, but realizing that a Hurricane's coming through, I also, Pelipper is kind of the bane of my existence for that damn squirrel. Flying Water is horrible for my 2 moves that I try to do damage with. So instead, I realize I can switch into Rotom Mow. Even on an incoming Hurricane, it's going to do about half, which is fine. But then I can pressure it with a Volt Switch. Considering they do not have any ground types, I can get a matchup on whatever they want to bring in, because surely they're not going to just stay in with the Pelipper there. And it ends up being the freaking Ogre. They go back into Shrek, who's getting slowly whittled down by some Stealth Rock. And as I grab the Volt Switch here, thank God it gets the kill. So, honestly, a pretty solid performance on not being very annoyed by a Grimmsnarl, if I don't say so myself. Rotom is able to finish it off. Bad thing about grabbing a kill with the Volt Switch is now I decide what I want to bring in, and then they can go into a matchup here. Now, as I go Mew, look, most of you know what this Mew is all about, and I promise this will be the last video where the Mew is here, but this is the Transform Imprisoned Mew to try to just be the biggest troll of all time, and as they see the Mew, they end up bringing in the Samurott. So look, I'm thinking immediately the Samurott's going to go for another Ceaseless Edge, and my main priority with this team is to try to get this Mew to do something. And keeping that in mind, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to commit to Terra. I'm going to go Terra Fairy to be able to live a Ceaseless Edge. I can then go for an Imprison and then transform into this thing and then try to give it the old reverse sweep and then sweep them with their own freaking Samurott. But it turns out I was wrong. They go for a Razor Shell. That, boosted by the rain, is going to do almost enough to knock me out. It does bring me to Citrus range, but it's not going to give me enough health to be able to live another one. And as I just click Imprison, I'm looking like an idiot with a heart on my head over here because there's pretty much nothing I can really do. So I waste not only the Mew but also the Terra, and that puts me in a little bit of a disadvantage. They finish me with one more Razor Shell, which is fine, but down goes the Mew. I'm not going to be doing any shenanigans with this thing, but if you do want to see this Mew go crazy, you know what to do. There is a Mew video out there. But now I'm down to 4 Mons left, and Wyrdeer is honestly still kind of looking like I can get it to potentially set up. Knowing I have coverage on everything they've got, it's a 4-4 game here. I'm going to see if I can get Wyrdeer to do something, and guess what? You clicked on a Wyrdeer video, so you already know what's going to potentially happen. So, I mean, so you just have to, you gotta bide your time a little bit. So, I go for a Volt Switch here, realize it's just good against anything. As they bring back in the Poltegeist, I get myself a little damage and then a little bit of a pivot. Things at about half, which is nice. But once again, Wyrdeer this is the best opportunity for me to bring in Wyrdeer. It really just, this thing can't really touch me. I resist its potential psychic moves, and it can't touch me with Ghost. And this just feels like the best place to bring in Wyrdeer. So I get the Intimidate for no reason, but that is fine because I'm still basically full HP. Gonna allow me to go for an Agility, and we're gonna get this thing zooming. So as I click Agility, they do swap out because again, that teapot has no business staying in. And as they bring in Pelipper, Stealth Rock is also helping out. It's at about half. It's easily, obviously, in range for a Thunderbolt to kill. And as I get my Agility, the problem with this set is, unless you have multiple Agilities, you kind of need Mirror Herb to come in clutch. As I outspeed, I can finish this thing off with a Thunderbolt. But considering I've considered Weakness Policy for this set, the problem with Weakness Policy is that generally what's going to proc a Weakness Policy is going to be a Dark move. And a Dark move is almost always knockoff. And that just doesn't help out. So Mirror Herb is it's really sweet if it can work. So here's the thing. They now can bring in the Raging Bolt. Does get a special attack boost from Photosynthesis. Important to note, that does not proc the Mirror Herb. But I also have coverage on this thing with an Earth Power. Now, considering I don't have any boost, the bad thing is it's not going to be able to grab a kill. I do get some big damage. However, Buddy's going to go ahead and click the Calm Mind, which is great. People love trying to set up in front of Wyrdeer because it's kind of just sitting there a lot of the time. And that is fantastic because now that's going to activate my Mirror Herb. I then take their special attack and special defense boost, and that is sick as hell. Because while Calm Mind, Raging Bolt is here to try to click Thunderclap, now with their own special defense boost, it's going to allow me to live it, and then I can finish it with another Earth Power. And hell yeah, we've gotten ourselves into a late game position with the Wyrdeer, which is exactly what I was hoping for. And also we killed the thing in the most satisfying fashion ever. So we're feeling pretty good at this point. Now, as they do still have the Samurott, this Narwhal thing can potentially have an Aqua Jet. It does not, however, no priority. I can then outspeed thanks to the Agility, go for that Thunderbolt, and that's going to be able to take care of it. So sometimes you don't even need to click Stored Power. Wyrdeer turns out to just be the GOAT. But now back comes in the final mon, which is going to be the freaking Teapot. And once again, this thing doesn't have really anything it can do to me, but I outspeed it anyway. I can zap his ass with a T-Bolt. That's why we love normal types. These things just be learning all sorts of random ass moves, and nobody knows what this thing is going to click. So that is going to be the end of the game. And Wyrdeer clutches it out in a pretty unconventional way, which we're all about over here. But that is now going to bring us into game number 2. And look, if you've stuck around this far into the video, you got to do me a favor and hit the like button. I'm over here trying to get Wyrdeer to clutch stuff out, and it's not easy, but I do it for the love of the game, and we're having fun with it. So with that, let's go ahead and jump into the game. Alright, so this time I've got a different squad. What remains the same is the Wyrdeer, and of course. So my opponent leads off with the Dragapult. I am going to lead off with the Donphan. And this OnlyFans is here to promote my OnlyFans, but also be able to set up a Stealth Rock early. And the bad thing is, as they go for a Dragon Dance, generally this Donphan doesn't care about turn 1 setups. And that's because I am both sturdy with the red card. So it's like guaranteed that, they get swapped out. But Dragapult often clicks Dragon Darts. This is a multi-hit move. And if it's able to set up another Dragon Dance, I'm thinking there might be a chance, if it's adamant, that it gets a kill through that. So I decide to click the knockoff here as they set up another Dragon Dance. So immediately staring down the face of a very scary dragon. And look, it lives with like 1 HP, which is crazy. That actually had a chance to kill. It doesn't, unfortunately for me. But now as they click the Dragon Darts, thank God we're running defensive Donphan, because we are able to live it, even with 2 Dragon Dances. And now it is going to activate the red card. So I'm like, yeah, actually that's a foul. You can get your ass on out of here. And that now swaps out the Pult, which is double good, because now that thing is essentially useless. Unless they have hazard control, it can't live a Stealth Rock swap in. And the red card does its thing here. Also, this Gorilla is about the last damn thing you want to see as a red card activates, because it comes in, gets its little surge. I can click knockoff again at least, which is great. Does do great damage, but it get rid of leftovers. And also, now I'm just in grassy danger, and this is not great for the Donphan. But after some recovery, I'm thinking there might still be potential value in the thing. And I feel like saving the guy for maybe even death fodder later. This feels like a pretty good opportunity to swap into Magmortar. Now, this is a belly drum Magmortar that I'm trying to get to work. And as they click Bullet or Drain Punch rather than just the grass coverage, that kind of stinks because, first of all, I would have been able to live a grass move much easier, but Drain Punch gives it health back. And what's funny is that for a second there, I was like, why does Flame Body never activate? Turns out this thing isn't even Flame Body. It's just Vital Spirits. I'm just mad for no reason, but that's besides the point. I'm thinking hopefully Magmortar just being out here might bait this Rillaboom to swap out. If I'm them, my ass is switching out. But it turns out they stay in. And as I go for a Belly Drum, I do get my Citrus Berry to bring me back decently healthy, but it's not likely going to be able to allow me to live another Drain Punch. And that just kills me. So I'm looking like an idiot with my Fire type getting destroyed by a Grass Monkey, and that is unfortunate. It still would have required me to get a Flame Charge on stuff and then get a Speed Boost and then maybe be able to Belly Drum Magmortar some shit. But regardless, down goes the Magmortar. We tried it. It didn't work. And now I'm like, you know what? It seems like sometimes the best use of Wyrdeer is to just bring it in and get an Intimidate. I know that I can live stuff. A U-turn is going to hurt. A U-turn would be an opportunity for weakness policy, but they're going to click the bulk up. They're thinking, I'm not afraid of this Wyrdeer like everybody does. They set up in front of me, which is sick, because that activates the Mirror Herb. I can then steal the bulk up, or at least copy it. Gives me +1 defense and attack. The attack is obviously not great for my offenses, but the plus boost does still just add 20 to the stored power, and I get an agility. So just like that, stored power already looking pretty powerful. And I'm thinking also, since I got an Intimidate on the thing, it's just neutral attack. I'm pretty free to go for another agility here. That's going to bring me to +4 speed, which is sick as hell. And as they click Drum Beating, it is going to do, you know, less than half, which is sweet. It does get the speed drop that comes with it, which is incredibly annoying, but you know, I'm able to soak up some health from the grass before it disappears. And still, I'm at a point where stored power is looking pretty damn powerful. And with 2 agilities, I'm faster than literally everything they've got. So I can go for a stored power here, and that is just going to straight up delete the Rillaboom in 1 hit, which is very satisfying. And Rillaboom is out of here. So now we get to see how far we can take this deer. And, you know, it's going to be tough, but I believe in the guy. So they decide to bring in the Cramorant. Not a fella you see often, so I do respect it. And as they go for an Endure, I'm thinking that's mostly just there for if it already had used Surf to be able to hit me with its freaking ability. But it lives it on 1 HP with the Thunderbolt, but it also then just activates a Salic Berry. Now, that doesn't really matter because, you know, a Cramorant with a +1 Salic Berry boost is not gonna cut it. I'm still gonna be faster. I'm looking menacing as shit with my big beard and eyebrows, and I can now go for a stored power. Able to take care of the Cramorant, which is sweet. And that's chalk 2 up for the big man. Wyrdeer over here just going crazy. So now as they bring in Dragapult, Buddy probably forgot about the Stealth Rock because that's just going to immediately kill him and his ghostly tail. And that's, you know, that's kind of nice. It also would have been sweet to be able to just outspeed it and kill it anyway, but it's fine. But now, in comes a Toxtricity. Now, here's the thing. Toxtricity has a couple options. I'm hoping that they want to click an Overdrive here. So for that reason, I'm going to click the Terra Ground. I want to be able to basically not only negate a potential Overdrive, but then be able to hit it with a 4 times effective, now stab boosted Earth power. And I'm going to put the damn Earth on my head. We're going full bulk cut out here, and I'm really hoping that there's no crazy defensive Terra. So it turns out they are going to go for a Terra as well. And we've got ourselves a little crystallized situation here where it's going to end up not looking great because they do go Terra Normal. And, you know, a lot of the time, Toxtricities, they go Terra Normal and specs Boom Burst, which hurts a lot. And I'm thinking, please do not click Boom Burst because now I should have just clicked Stored Power. I was really thinking they were going to go, I was like, surely there's no Terra Dark. I was worried about a Terra Dark for some reason. A Stored Power, you know, would have been nice. But Earth Power does not have enough to kill it, and then they do click Boom Burst, and down goes the Wyrdeer. So while we do get some work put in by the guy, that's pretty standard Wyrdeer work right there. We do go down, and also I lose my Terra with it. So I'm now down to 4 Mons left. One of them being Donphan, who's basically dead. So I've got a little bit of work to do, but we can see if we can avenge our Wyrdeer friend with what we've got left. So I decide I can bring in the Hisuian Samurott here. I can just outspeed, and I decide to click Flip Turn just in case they want to swap. But they do just stay in. Flip Turn is going to be able to kill it. Down goes the Toxtricity, so it's nice that, you know, Wyrdeer at least had to force them to use their Terra Normal just to be able to, you know, live and attack. And now, as I get the Flip Turn, I have to decide what I want to bring in here. Now, this game is most definitely not over yet because their 2 final Mons are going to be both full health. First of all, they've got a Corviknight, and then in the back they have a Phalanx. So I decide first to bring in Chimecho. This is just a weird, goofy guy that's here for dual screens. Basically just a shitty Grimmsnarl, but I just like the thing, so it turns out they bring in Corviknight, and I'm working toward my win condition being Kingdread. Kind of has to be at this point. So knowing that both of these guys are going to be physical attackers, I decide to go for Reflect. I do have the Light Clay. That's going to allow it to stick around unless the Corviknight has Defog, which case that's fine. It can just click it. Chimecho doesn't have any other value anyway. But it turns out they click Iron Defense. Leads me to believe they probably do not have the defog. And now they're going for a second Iron Defense. They're going to try to just be a body press set. And I realize now I got to get my Kingdra in here ASAP. Because with too many Iron Defenses, body press is still going to hurt. At least I do have my Reflect up. But I decide to just off myself with the Chimecho. I go for the Healing Wish. Which is kind of funny because I could theoretically go into Donphan and then just get all my health back. But it's not going to help me much because this thing has +4 defense here. So I'm going to bring in Kingdra. Now, the best part about this Kingdra is I do not need to set up an agility. I'm faster than their final 2 mons. So all I need to do is click the focus energy. That's now going to guarantee that everything I click will be a critical hit. And luckily I'm faster because they clicked taunt. They wanted to try to stop any potential setup. But luckily the taunt comes in after the damage is done. I got my focus energy. And now I can go for Draco Meteor, which is resisted. But with a guaranteed crit and Sniper's 50% boost, it's going to do a lot and easy to hit KO. We also just ignore the special attack drop that comes with it. And I was thinking surely they hit me with a body press there. They decided to go for another Iron Defense. They just going to go ahead and boost all the way up to +6. Not going to help him with the next Draco Meteor because that is going to absolutely roast and toast the guy. So down goes the Corviknight, which is sweet. And thank God. Corviknight could have been a little bit of a problem there because, you know, Samurot's ass was not doing anything with physical defense boost. So now their final mon is going to be, or mons, I don't know, this guy counts as multiple guys, is going to be the Phalanx. Phalanx, I don't know how the hell you say the thing, but all I got to do is click a Draco Meteor, and a guaranteed crit Draco Meteor is just an absolute nuke. So that is going to delete them, and they all fall in unison. So that's going to be the end of the match, and also the end of the video. Thank you guys very much for watching. We had a lot of fun with this one, and they said it couldn't be done. They said Wyrdeer could not possibly get a showcase, and I made it happen, slowly but surely. But thank you guys for watching. I appreciate the support, and I will catch you next time. Peace out.